for consumables to start things out. And I actually really like the flask start because it allows you to most effectively abuse your gold count when you start. Because when you start with Doran's Blade and Health Potion, there's not really a whole lot of flexibility for your build. Whereas if you go for the Crystalline Flask early, you can actually wait in base for 10 gold, pick up an extra potion, and then come to lane. You don't really miss out on any CS. Maybe you miss out on one depending on how things stack up as far as your lanes go. But specifically for mid lane, it's actually just a better start. Now, for Chaser, the ability to win this game is going to come off of his ability to A, avoid those built over Peacemakers and hit those piercing lights when he uses them to shove the wave. If for either AD carry between pilt over Peacemakers and piercing lights, if you're able to use that skill to both push the wave and get damage on your opposing AD carry like Chaser just did right there, it just gives you so much of an advantage because you're going to put pressure to CS on by shoving the wave up underneath the turret. You're also going to be dealing damage, of course, to your opposing AD carry. So, trying to last it here, 12-7. The 650 auto attack range turns out to be pretty good between both of these guys. Chaser, of course, up against the wall now, double the CS down. And, of course, with those traps being put out, just provide a lot of extra zoning potential here, really limiting the mobility of what is already a very mobile champion. Now, keep in mind, this is not necessarily super effective for Score to be bullying Chaser out at this stage of the game, just because he's never going to win the 1v1 like I auto attack you, you auto attack me trade, because he's down to Doran's Blade. So Chaser at this point just looking to sustain up in lane and make sure that he can get as many creeps as possible. Even if he drops down in CS, he's still going to be able to go back to base and pick up one, probably two Doran's Blades. And then when he comes back into lane, he'll have already gotten a refill on that Crystalline Flask, and that alone is going to give him some extra item effectiveness. Just has to make sure that he doesn't keep taking these auto attacks from Score. Lucky Score doesn't bring Flash with him, otherwise that could have been a very, very different situation. Now, level 4 versus level 4, basically exactly the same time. But for Score, he definitely gets the advantage in lane. I don't think anybody would take that away from Caitlyn. And actually going back to base relatively early. I'm not sure about this back timing. He's going to actually lose a couple of CS, but the wave is currently actually pushing towards his turret. This can be a great spot to be in. Wave will push into a better position for him. And actually, when you think about things in a 1v1 sense, usually having the wave push towards your turret is a good thing because in 5v5s you're avoiding jungle ganks. But in 1v1s it's actually a little bit worse because you're not putting yourself in a position to deny CS versus your enemy lane opponent. And you actually lose some CS to turrets, so definitely some things to keep an eye on. Off the first recalls back to base with teleports back into lane, you're going to see one Doran's Blade versus two, so the overall stat item advantage here for Score, but when it comes to sustain, it's going to be Chaser, so. Passive versus active sustain as well. 3% additional lifesteal there for Score. Of course, it's actually slightly more because you have additional attack damage, which does additional damage, which gets you more lifesteal back from the Doran's Blade. So a small difference. But of course, this is a very, very close game, and probably gonna just come down to the pressure. If Score is able to just straight up CS better, it makes it that much more difficult. Oh man, there's the first aggressive trade we're seeing by Chaser onto Score. It'll force out a health potion. Of course, he does have plenty of those in his inventory, just to keep popping them. And at this point, the recall for Chaser was just, he couldn't sustain in lane long enough to get that last little bit of extra gold for a second Doran's Blade. And I think that's actually going to be a increasingly bigger and bigger deal unless we see this game go on long enough for second recalls to come into play. And you can see how much more effectively Score is able to push this wave in. He's going to put Chaser under a lot of pressure, and while he should be able to CS relatively well here, look at this all in. We're going to see Piercing Light, but oh, there's actually the ace in the hole. Barrier's still up for both carries. Score actually going to take a lot of shots of the culling, but still overall more HP. There in the pool for Score. He's going to get that headshot proc off on a Chaser who's just feeling the struggle. And granted, he does have a Crystalline Flask, so more times he goes back to base, the stronger he will be, at least as far as cost effectiveness, gold efficiency wise. But being down a Doran's Blade is actually a big deal, no matter how you want to look at it. Doran's Blades only give you 7 attack damage. If you were to put that into gold, into like a pickaxe, you're going to be coming out with, what is that, almost double the effectiveness as far as AD is concerned. Now, you have to factor in HP, lifesteal, and a few other ideas, but, dashing forward, Chaser going to get a lot of damage here. Look at those Lightslinger procs continuing to go on to score. Pushing it back underneath that turret, and no sustain left for score, whereas there is still a health potion here for Chaser. He can afford to get hit by those built-over Peacemakers because he knows he has sustain to stay in lane. Of course, he's going to use this last remaining health potion here. Score pushing up the lane. We'll have a headshot proc up in just a couple more auto attacks. Chaser getting some nice harass down through the minion wave too with that with the piercing light. That is the real way that that Lucian wins these matchups. Should be positioning probably a little bit further forward on the score as he's now pushing the wave into turret, but I mean, being down almost 10 CS is a big deal for Chaser. It means that if he just plays the passive game, he's not going to win it. Piercing Light continuing to be used to shove this wave in, but he's actually going to look at turrets for the objective win. That would be actually really interesting to see if that's what he goes for. Now, all consumables out for both carries, and we still have a little bit of time left on the duration of teleport before they get back to their turrets, or back to their base to buy, and then, of course, back to their turrets afterwards. But we want to pick up as much CS as possible here in the next few seconds, because teleports back available means that if you're the first to come back to lane, maybe you get the opportunity to shove, put some damage down on the turrets, and start the snowball rolling. Of course, we're already over 2/3 of the way to 100 CS for score, and of course, Chaser's going to hit the 2/3 mark here off of, well, the next wave, because he's actually missing quite a bit of that CS. I think he only hit one of the creeps under turret. Now he is a full 10 CS down. 10 CS, of course, the differential that you have to have between your CS scores once you hit 100 CS in order to take down the win from that win condition. So, nice dash in. There's a piercing light. You're going to get another Lightslinger passive, but of course, having a micro back very, very ever so slowly through those traps. And of course, continual auto attacks going down on the turret. Thereby score. The culling going to come out here. Almost every shot of the culling hits on to score. But importantly enough, Chaser is completely out of mana. And of course, the recent change to the Relentless Pursuit means that it actually does cost mana at early ranks before you max it out. And of course, probably will not be maxed out, because maxing a spell that does no damage is actually a fairly bad idea. Pushing intensifies. Of course, the CS difference means that there's actually a possibility that Chaser won't be able to teleport back to base, and that he's actually just going to lose that. Oh, it steps on a Caitlyn trap. Should be able to trade the damage back as far as auto attacks are concerned, but score pushing this minion wave in means that Chaser can't trade just yet. He needs to make sure that he's on point with CSing his minions. Loses one for almost no reason. Only 7 CS down at this point, but coming back from base, he's going to have a very narrow window of time. This wave alone, probably the last opportunity he's going to get to come back from base with quad Doran's Blades, shove the wave back out, and look for the kill on the score. Now, score shoves a wave into turret. We're going to see a teleport back there from Chaser. Probably won't be completely full on mana, but he will be able to hit most of this CS under turret. Loses, I think, 1 or 2 CS there. He's 10 CS down, and this wave is all that matters. In fact, shoving the wave actually a pretty bad idea, because he has to all-in score right now. He's down 10 CS, and he's going to be down even further. Why he's hanging back here and not willing to trade versus score is actually terrible, because the score is just going to hit all of the CS, hit 100, and one more minion kill. He wins the game, and there it is, 100 CS to 90, a 10 CS difference, and I think score wins. Yeah, score is going to win that. You can see the highlight music coming out and somewhat anticlimactic, but in the 1v1, Caitlyn just too